Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
John, we have some stuff to talk about.
We do have some stuff to talk about.
I think we have to start with you.
With
And
me?
yes, with
Okay.
you. And say congratulations. Not only did you pick the sweep last weekend
That's
at
right.
Carlisle College, but the Mavs currently sit in fifth place, which is where you
Which is
predicted.
the goal I've had for this team since last September.
I sitting there on Saturday night, the game's almost over, and I'm thinking, crap. I'm gonna have to talk to John, and he's gonna be right with the whole fifth place thing. And
Look, they've worked their way back to fifth place, and fifth place is a lot different than eighth place, and it's a great position to be in at this point in the season.
us and other people have talked about how close that kind of really right now 2 through 8 at this point in time can move fairly easily in one weekend,
It
depending
is.
on who's playing who.
And you've got to be careful. You've got to stay competitive. You've got to keep winning,
Mhm.
tying, winning in 3-on-3 and shootouts to get, an extra point with a tie. You've got to keep doing that for the next, month or two to stay in it, because otherwise, if you get too far afield, you're going to dig yourself a hole that you're not going to have enough games to get out of. So UNO is in prime position with 10 games left to go after this series at Colorado College this weekend.
It's that time of year in the NHL with the All-Star weekend kind of coming to a conclusion. It's the back half of the season, and they always talk about teams that control their destiny. Teams that are in the playoffs currently that just have to essentially keep pace with the teams that are trying to catch them. You don't have to be amazing. You just have to hold your own and don't be terrible, kind of thing. And the Mavs are in that position, right? Like, you're sitting in
Right.
fifth.
Right now we're sitting in
You're in
fifth
striking distance of fourth.
with 18 points.
Yep.
In fourth place is Western Michigan, who comes in next weekend. They're sitting at 25 points. So we're 7 points from them. So we can't catch them next weekend. But I'll tell you what, a sweep would get us within 1 point.
And it would be huge.
It would be fantastic.
Because at that point in time, you're looking at going, we've got 4 or 5 series left, right?
Yes, as of right now, we have 5 series left.
5
so we
series.
have 10 conference games
So
left.
you'd be 1 point back with
8 games
8
to go.
games to go.
Yep.
And all you have to do is be 2 points better than Western Michigan, and you've got yourself home ice in the playoffs.
That's right.
I mean, that's the kind of position that we talked about at the beginning of the season that they would love to be in, that you were supportive and thinking that they would be in.
That's the position I want them to be in, because fifth place, I know that a lot of people look at it and say bottom half is bottom half, but fifth place is a lot different in this conference than eighth place. And if you can keep yourself right there in the middle of the pack at the end, who knows what else will happen? I mean, you're going to have to win some games the next couple of weeks. And we've got a series against Colorado College. We've got a series at Miami. Those are series where we match up well against those teams. I mean, I think we match up well against Miami. We didn't take care of them back in November like I thought we should have. But they've got some series. And if they could just get themselves into a position going into that final regular season series at Baxter Arena against North Dakota, that could be very exciting. A very, very fun atmosphere to watch as a fan, to be a part of as a player. Because you and I both know in college hockey, postseason hockey it's the best. It's a lot of fun, and it's even better if UNO's a part of it. So they have an opportunity. So I'm very excited that we got the sweep out at Colorado College this weekend. And it was first period Friday night. I got to be honest with you, Jason. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen. We saw a little bit of everything in that game. There was...
Yeah, we have to talk. I think the shocker was Seville getting pulled.
It was.
In the first, 5-6 minutes of the first period?
Yeah, it was early on, and we were down 3-0 at that point.
And, obviously being on a travel weekend for us, for the kids, I'm around a bunch of UNO fans that are watching the game with us and stuff, and there was some chatter about how bad was he playing, and I remember thinking, I didn't think he was playing that bad.
No.
I don't think he was playing the way Seville's played, certainly the weekend before.
No, he didn't play the way he did in the Denver weekend. And that's obviously, you've got a young goaltender. You've got a young team in front of him in a tough conference. They're going to be up and down games. And that was when they get down 3-0. And that third goal that Colorado College got was a shorthanded goal. So I think that was kind of the kicker there at that point. And that was the 8:33 mark in the first period. So it was.
But I just don't think any of them. Well, I don't know. I'd say 2 of the 3 were not his fault.
No, I would agree with that.
Like the shorthanded one.
I would agree with that. I was kind of.
As a team, you have to look at that going, we failed him more than he failed us.
I was surprised. It kind of looked like they looked ugly that first period. And honestly, the first period both nights, Colorado College played well. But at that point, you're thinking we're down 3-0. Where's it going to go from here? And fortunately, Abate gets a goal, the next goal.
Shorthanded.
Shorthanded, unassisted goal, which was fantastic. So he got a goal, and then Pulkkinen got a goal. So it was 3-2 after the first period. But by then, Austin Roden was in net. And thankfully, Austin Roden got some playing time while Isaiah Seville was with the World Junior team right around the holidays, which is good. It's a positive for us to have 2 guys who can go in there and play. I know during the Evan Wenninger era, it was kind of Evan Wenninger and Evan Wenninger and Evan Wenninger. I mean, every once in a while, Blankenberg would come in and spell him, but we did not have a capable number 2 goaltender during those years.
Yeah, I mean, there just was that clear number 1, number 2 kind of setup, and it seems like I think it's to most fans it's obvious Seville is the number 1, but you don't have a huge drop off going to Roden.
You don't, and the thing that Seville brings you, and the thing that we love about him is he has that just like crazy ability to make 1 or 2 just hellacious saves that just kind of defy physics during a game. And so that obviously we've seen some of those the last few weekends. Yeah. So, it was a surprising move, but thankfully Austin Roden came in and he played solidly the rest of the game. And the Mavs only gave up 1 goal the rest of the way and they scored 6. So.
Yeah. I remember thinking when Abate scored that, if we could get 1 more before the end of the period, because I mean, we were still halfway through at that point in time. So it wasn't like we were running short on time. I'm like, it's 3-1 and we've got 10 minutes left in the first period. And I think if we could get 1 more, we could go into the locker room 3-2. I felt we had a good chance of finding a way to maybe get at least a point out of this or something.
Yeah.
And so Pulkkinen's goal, that was just awesome because I was like, that's right where we needed to be. We need to come out strong.
Yeah.
I always worry about second periods with this team for some reason. They always seem to have poor performances in the second period.
Yeah. But they played solidly the second period on Friday night and they were able to tie it up. And then Colorado College gets their 4th goal of the game. So at that point, you and I are probably on the same page. We're thinking, let's just, tie this game up, hold the tie, get to overtime, see if we can get a point, maybe 2 out of this thing. And
yeah, well, Stewart ties it up on the power play.
Yep.
And that's one of those things that we've really needed.
That was a great goal too, yeah.
A couple times. We needed good power plays, timely power plays,
Yep.
and that was one of those timely power plays. We really needed a goal, so it was nice to see Stewart come up big in that situation.
But yeah, then
we give up 1. And that's the part that I'm like, Colorado College doesn't have a great power play.
Well, and Colorado College doesn't have, outside of Wilkie, they don't have a lot of guys who put up points. So that was kind of surprising too. I mean, they were staying with us kind of goal for goal, point for point at that point. And you're like, where's the team that held Denver last week? It was kind of a struggle. But I'll tell you what, the third period was kind of all UNO.
We really pressed the play.
Yep.
And I think that helped us. We get the tying goal, 4 minutes?
Yeah.
4 minutes in?
Like 3.5 minutes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really thought at that point in time, the way we were playing in those first few minutes, that I thought, especially with that 5-minute power play to start.
Yep.
I mean, you knew you had to score at least 1 on that.
Yeah.
If you wanted any chance of being in this game, you had to even the score on that power play. Otherwise, I don't know very many people would say you're going to have, much of a chance. But I think that really helped us kind of establish the way that we were going to play in Colorado College. Having even more ice for, guys like Weiss and Burchett and Abate and that stuff.
Yep.
Just really helps.
And then
we go through this back and forth, and we're just like chance after chance going, oh my God, are we going to
and then the
snake bitten and end up in a power?
winning goal. Now it started off, Primo had the puck kind of down low behind the net, and the thing about the Olympic size sheet is all of that real estate behind the net to work with. It's crazy.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, you've got an extra 15 feet left to right on the rink, and then because of that, they move the goal line ahead. So your neutral zone's smaller.
Crazy. It feels like you're in the middle of it feels like your net's in the middle of the defense. I mean, it is.
Comes up on the goal line, sneaks up on you pretty quick on Olympic sheets. Yeah.
Yeah. Primo had the puck back there, if I'm recalling correctly, right along the boards, and a Colorado College player engaged him. So the puck was just kind of sitting there, and along comes Tyler Weiss. He picks up the puck and he just goes in and wraps it around. And shoots through the 5-hole.
Dunks it 5-hole.
Yeah. Vernon was the name of the
Yeah.
So that was, I bet you were excited. That was a pretty sweet goal.
It was almost a disaster.
It was.
We had at that point in time, because it was a late start for us. Like I think it was like wasn't it like an 8:30 game time?
Yeah, it was
Central time.
It was Central, like 8. Yeah, 8.
I think it was 8:30.
I can't remember.
7:30 in.
It felt late.
Colorado.
It felt late.
And so we were done. We were back at the hotel. We had gotten so far into the hotel that we had gotten kicked out of like the main lobby area.
Okay.
Because we're too loud.
So you're back.
We're loud
long.
people.
And normally when you guys are on those road trips, I don't really text you guys. But then I texted you at some point for some reason. I can't remember Friday night what it was.
Yeah, I know. But so they kicked us out and they put us in the pool because this hotel didn't have like a conference room area that we could use.
Okay.
And because we're loud, they wanted us somewhere where we
could
be loud and not annoy
So that's
people.
why you almost fell in the pool.
I almost fell in the pool.
And I was
literally.
I was exiled to the basement because I went down there to get my iPad, and they scored 2 goals while I was down there. And Bridget's like, "Don't come back upstairs." So I had to pull up the game on the Apple TV. On my TV in the basement, which is fine. I spent a lot of time down there watching movies and Netflix and all that other stuff. But I will tell you, I got kind of sleepy during that game, honestly. So that's when we started tweeting you guys.
Thank God NCHC now lets us watch on more than one device, right?
God, NCHC TV lets us watch it on more than one device because...
Could you imagine last year you would have been down there going, "What's the score, Bridget?"
Yeah, I wouldn't have been... Yeah, I would have had no idea. I would have had to have her turn on Facebook Live on her phone so I could watch it downstairs because you couldn't do that. You would get a warning that you were already signed in watching it. So thankfully, they changed it up. But anyway, that was a great game. A 6-4 game. Martin Sundberg gets... Did he get an empty netter then?
Yeah, almost. Yeah. I don't know how he almost messed that up. He came in and he got the puck low and he cut inside, and I'm just like, I'm watching him like spin around with the puck going, dude, just put it, the net's empty, just put it in already. Like,
that was awesome. That was in the closing seconds of the game. So that was a big win.
That was huge.
And like I said, we saw a little bit of everything. We saw the good Mavs, we saw the not so good Mavs. It was all over the place, but they found a way to win.
Yeah, and I had said going into that my concern was the Friday night game coming off of 2 big game series with North Dakota and Denver. If there's going to be a letdown game, it was going to be Friday. If we're going to lose to a lower ranked opponent, it's going to be that first time you see them, because it's that mindset of like, I think I've got this. And so for them to kind of overcome that and find a way to get a win out of that, I thought was huge.
Absolutely.
And after that, I'm thinking we're going to win on Saturday, because their attitude just seemed to be, their heads were in the right spot. I was very confident for our guys.
I felt confident after that Friday game too. Although you never know. I felt confident. I'm like, they got the 3 points. This was a big win for them. They've had a good first part of 2020 here. So going into the Saturday night, they did well. Now, Colorado College scored first. It was a scoreless first period, and then Colorado College scored early in the second period. And at that point, you're not nervous or anything at all?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Quite honestly, no. I mean, I was thinking, all right, we're gonna have to find a way to get in the third because I really didn't like the way we were playing early on in the second.
Right.
But Seville's back in net, and he looked pretty good.
He looked
in the
solid.
First,
Yeah, he looked good.
Back to what I'd expect to see.
He
him.
was the goaltender we saw during the Denver series and during the North Dakota series. So he was back on track. He just had kind of an off night. So yeah. And did you think at all? Because Krutov, who's the Matt Boney driver, he called me and he's like, "Who do you think they start in net?" And this was about 3:00 on Saturday, and I said, "I think they're going to start Seville in net." I mean, I had no doubt about that in my mind. So
yeah, I didn't. A couple other people had asked me up there if Roden would get the start or if we'd see Zab. I'm like, you're not seeing Zab. I can tell you that right now. I'd say 95% chance you see Seville.
Yeah, you're not seeing Zab. I don't think unless like it's one of those situations where kind of disaster strikes and you try. And I don't know. Do they even have Zab with them on the road? I don't know.
Probably not because they're only allowed to dress two.
Yeah, so I doubt he was there. So
yeah, I mean, I guess I'd have to look it up. I believe he can travel with the team.
Yeah,
but then it gets into like, what's the university say, right? Because they may look at it saying, why are we paying to travel a kid that you can't?
Why would you take a goaltender instead of
an extra
defenseman
or
forward?
Defenseman,
yeah, exactly. So Tristan Keck, our guy Keck, gets the first goal for the Mavs in the second period.
Nothing but this one.
Yeah, that's because you have. I know you're Jason's constantly apologizing for doubting Keck.
I know,
and he's
I'm trying not to do it again now.
He's come through the last 2 weekends, so I mean, I think he's back on track now. Last season was a tough one, but he's
always played well.
He's a fast skater. Yeah,
it's never a play thing.
No.
I don't know why he has so many A+ opportunities and just. Last year he was snake bitten like crazy. I know I'm rehashing.
I think
but
sometimes,
it's just like,
sometimes it's the worst position to be, one on none, going into the goaltender. Sometimes that's the worst. It's almost better if you're shooting through a crowd. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's less to be in your head because
unless you're Tyler Weiss, because he seems happiest when he has the puck. And he seems happiest when he can go coast to coast all the way down the ice with that puck. Deke around a few defensemen. Yeah, exactly.
I'd say his couple shifts in the 3-on-3 overtime against Denver was an example of how if you give him the puck and time and space, you can just like...
Yeah, exactly right.
Putting him on a leash is pretty much impossible, I think.
So yeah, Keck gets the Mavs on the board, and then the Mavs score the next 3. They cruised after that, so... 4-1 win for UNO on Saturday night. That was a big sweep. Sweep.
Yeah, and Noah Sullivan's goal late in the second was the one that I really commend. That I saw that one and went, yes, we got this done. For
absolutely.
him. I mean, I know it's a 2-goal lead in the whole, worst lead in hockey, blah blah blah, but the guys looked good, and that was the kind of setup goal that's just huge.
That was our first conference sweep since February 12th and 13th, 2018. Brent Bean had that on Twitter, so I'll give him a shout out. I'm sure he'll be talking about that on his podcast, but that was big. And it was the first road NCHC sweep since 2017.
Yeah.
At Colorado College, and both of those were in February.
Well, there you go. We have to play Colorado College in February every time now.
So we did well. It's January, so we're almost a month earlier here than we were on those. So that was a great series, and I got to tell you, we've played 3 conference series to start 2020. Obviously, we had the series out at Maine, but our first 3 conference series of 2020, of a possible 18 points in those 6 games, the Mavs have gotten 11 points. That's a great way to start. I mean, if you told me we were going to get that many points against those teams.
They're a college team. I would say it's appropriate to give them a grade on the first 3 series.
The first 3 series?
Would you give them an A, a B, B plus? What do you?
I'm going to say B plus.
A B plus?
I'm going to say not quite an A. If they, I'll tell you what, if they'd gotten a win against Denver if they hadn't lost it with just a few seconds left to go, was that the Saturday night game?
Yeah.
Yeah. If they hadn't lost that game with what, like 37, 38 seconds
Well,
left
yeah,
to
it
go.
was a tie, but yeah. Because we let that
We let
tying
that
goal in right at
slip
the end of it.
away
Yeah.
right at the end. If we'd gotten the win there, I think I would have given him an A. But I'll give him a B plus. That was a solid 3 weekends for him.
Yeah, I would have said I'm pretty much right there with you. I'd give him a B. I
Okay,
think
that's fair.
that 2 overtime games versus DU is huge. I didn't see that company, but
But
if
they
they
didn't
won
get
an
that
A, they
extra
had
point.
to find it. They
Yeah.
had to find a way to get one of them.
Yep. Yeah.
At least, and then that probably for me that probably would have given them. I probably would have given an A- if they could have squeaked one of those out.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the way that Denver's kind of been our nemesis for so long, and North Dakota's North Dakota. I mean,
Yeah.
you really just kind of looked at this saying, man, 6 games, if we can win. I really thought if we could be 500, that would be awesome.
Yeah, if we could win 3 of them.
Right.
Which would have been 9 points. So we came out a little bit ahead
Yeah.
of what
So-
you were hoping for. So
There's your C mark. Like for me,
Yep.
that's what I thought. So that's my C mark. We performed better than my C mark. I think it's a solid B.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a problem giving them a B plus as you. So I think that's a good outcome.
who was your player of the weekend?
My player of the weekend is gonna be Conley.
Okay.
One of the things that stood out to me was on the broadcast on Friday night after Cairo College had scored their 3rd goal in that process of pulling Seville. Conley, they showed like this pulled back view of a lot of the rink very briefly. And you could see Conley just gather a group of guys together, and he was obviously having a conversation with them. And I think that kind of showed to me like there's some leadership there that this group really needs.
Right.
And then not to just like lead with your mouth,
Yep.
but he put up points on Friday. He put up points on Saturday. I think if I remember right, he got an assist on Weiss's goal, the game-winning goal on Friday too.
Yeah.
So-
all they have listed is Primo, but we saw a lot of him on Friday night. So.
Yeah. Because I could have swore when they announced it, I thought I heard them say from Conley, but I could be wrong on that. But he just
Regardless, yeah.
he seemed like one of those guys that in every aspect of the game
Yeah.
seemed to be performing, and we've talked about him needing to be a key guy for the Mavs because he has a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. He kills penalties. He's on the power play. He plays 5-on-5. He occasionally will take face-offs. You kind of rely on him to
Yeah,
play every aspect.
he was an important component on that team on Saturday night in particular, and that was a big game for him. And when he got that second goal for the Mavs, that really I think helped set the tone the rest of the way. So, that's a great pick, and I'm going to go because I don't think I picked him as my player of the weekend. I am going to go with Tyler Weiss for the game-winning goal on Friday night, because that game, as I said, we saw a little bit of everything. It was all over the place, and that was a sweet wraparound goal through the 5-hole, and that's just what the Mavs needed, and that's the kind of goal that he's built for. So I was glad to see it. He had an assist in the game. He had an assist on the previous power play goal that Zach Jordan scored. So I gotta go with Tyler Weiss. That was a big time goal, and that was an important goal because if that game goes to overtime, I don't know what happens, and they really needed the points. So that was a big time goal at the end of the period.
You could tell on Saturday night's game that CC had figured out that on the power play, you can't give Weiss space.
Right.
And not because he's going to be, he's not Morelli. Like it's not a goal scoring threat necessarily as much as it is he can see it seems like he sees everything.
Yeah.
And if you give him too much space over there on that wing that they've put him on, like he finds seam passes. He'll get the puck to the front of the
Correct.
net, and
and he did that.
You're
This
gonna pay.
the
And
big ice sheet this
yeah.
weekend. He was able to do that. So
you started seeing them put 2 guys on him on the power play. They'd swing one up high in the umbrella, and they'd swing a second guy down low, and all of that to try to frustrate his passing abilities over there.
Yep.
And so I commend. That's a good pick because anytime one player can get that much attention from another team, you know they're doing something
it opens
right.
And it opens the door for another player to score
Right.
too. So absolutely.
Yeah.
So got to give some love to Tyler Weiss, and I think the Conley pick is fantastic. And it was a great weekend for the Mavs. It was great to get a sweep.
Yeah.
Great to get a conference sweep. They needed those 6 points. And you know me, I'm all about the conference race, the points race at the conference. So we're 7 points out of 5th place, and we've got our 4th place, and we've got the 4th place coming in Western Michigan this upcoming weekend. So that's setting up for a really huge series. So
yeah, I wonder how much Gabnet will draw attention to the standings, because you don't want to put a whole lot of pressure on these guys.
You don't.
Like, this is the series and it's the only thing
yeah.
that matters.
This is the pivotal,
right.
Whatever. I can't talk right now.
Yeah.
It's the what is the word? It's not pivotal. It's the whatever it is. I don't know. I can't talk now. This is the critical juncture in the season, and you must win now. You can't be too hard line on that, because Western Michigan's a good team, and Western Michigan just got a good sweep at home against St. Cloud State. So
right,
you've got to, but they have an opportunity here. This is a big opportunity for the team right now.
Right,
big opportunity. I mean, you're sitting at, 1 game above 500. You're 11-10-5. That's big. So
after coming off a 9-win season last year.
That's right.
So,
and they've got they're 7-5-2 on the road, and we're 4-5-3 at home. Let's get up to 500 or better at home this coming weekend, Mavs. That's my take on it.
We're typically pretty
positive.
Yeah,
I would say you and I tend to be pretty fair, pretty pragmatic.
I mean, I'm not gonna shy away from criticism. But I also, we've talked about this kind of off podcast. It's a little bit of a, I don't want to say a rule to this, but we've never felt that it's okay to call a player out and specifically say, this player's terrible.
Right, exactly.
Players will make poor decisions, and I have no problem saying, that just wasn't the best decision. And that was a poor choice of where to put the puck type of thing, right? But we've always kind of felt like, as a fan base, it's our job to support our team.
I think so. It's always hard when you're dealing with fan discussion as it regards sports. It's like talking about politics.
Yeah.
You never know. But I think one of the things that I've really been aware of the past several years is trying to look for the positive in any situation, if you can, as it regards the team. And last season was obviously an example of a tough situation.
Right.
It was a difficult one, but I think by and large, I think the fans tend to be pretty fair.
Yeah. We talked recently about the coverage and
about the media coverage or lack thereof that people often wring their hands about.
And we talked a little bit, but I opened up the newspaper and I was extremely upset with the coverage, with the lead into this article, and I think that we need to discuss it because I question, we've already questioned, is there a need for traditional media? And obviously new media kinds of guys, we're going to be critical of traditional media just because we feel like
sometimes
it's old and there's new things out there and there's new ways of reaching.
Sometimes it seems like they get favored
at
the expense of everybody else just because of tradition.
And so
it's all about tradition.
I'm sitting here on Thursday going,
you're reading
you know what?
An Omaha World Herald article. It was the series preview.
Well, and I wasn't even reading the article. I just opened up the sports section.
Okay. See, I was on Twitter.
I reached out to you and you found it on Twitter. So I have a problem with this because you come off this series against a team that you've traditionally had a lot of tough games against.
Denver.
And you haven't had a whole lot of success. And you steal away 2 points because no one in college hockey gave you a long shot in hell of getting probably a point out of the weekend. I don't know very many people who didn't pick Denver to sweep UNO.
Yeah, I don't think very many. I mean, I picked a split just
right.
Just get, but you know.
But you're smarter than people who write for.
Well, I thank you for the check is in the mail. Yeah.
You can just slide it across the table.
But you saw the tweet. I can't remember exactly. It was the tweet of the article, and I can't remember exactly how it was worded. But I think they pulled a line from. Oh, you've got it. Got it pulled up right now. This was on the 23rd, January 23rd, on the @OWH Mavs Twitter account.
So, premises: our Mavs come up with big ties, big points, great games, extremely entertaining games. Great hockey.
Keep in mind, the Mavs have not been able to beat Denver since 2015.
Right.
You know, and they got a tie They got a tie against them late last season.
Yeah.
But that's been a team that for whatever reason we just haven't matched up well with.
Right. And
the last few years.
They lead with, despite coming up winless, the team remains upbeat. And I'm thinking...
That's definitely a glass is half empty comment. You know, if you're going to go with the, you know... Despite, you know...
I get that. I get this idea through traditional media that the last thing you want is a fan writing articles because they get too jaded. And, like, I've heard all those arguments. But at the same point in time, this, as a fan of UNO, this kind of coverage is what makes me... rather upset, because I really don't think that after everything that was positive that happened in that series, to lead with, you know, they didn't get a win, but they're still upbeat that they're going to go play, you know, a lesser team. And I'm thinking they just had two great series
solid games.
They're playing great hockey, and that's what you pull out of 2 weekends of hockey.
It was an odd word choice. And I will concur with that. And fans were obviously talking about that on Twitter. I don't know if Bridget addressed it or not. I think, as I told you, I was taking a break from Mavpuck on Twitter this week, so I logged out on the Twitter app on my iPhone. So I didn't notice, but I did notice on, you know, I have other accounts that I manage, and I did notice some of the fans talking about this. So it was a weird choice, despite coming up winless. You know, you could have done it, you know. I mean, there are different ways you probably could have worded that. And if we had time for me to sit down and craft it, you know.
Right, like,
you know,
it could perform well at home against Denver. It could surprise Denver, you know, with stealing 2 points or something.
You know, after a hard fought series that resulted in 2 ties against the number 5 team in the nation, the Mavs are upbeat about their road swing at Colorado College this weekend. Something like that. That's just off the top of my head. So, but this is what we talk about, and we talk about the lack of opportunities for new media to cover this team, and it's something that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And it's something you'll hear a lot of theories, and there have been some theories that say, you know, the UNO as an athletic department wants to, you know, protect the ability of the Omaha World Herald, KETV, WOWT, and KMTV to be able to cover this team, go and get quotes at the post-game press conferences and the midweek press conferences, and that's why we're not getting the full broadcast of the midweek press conference via Periscope on Twitter like we used to, where we used to be able to watch the entire basketball news conference and the entire hockey news conference every week, because they want to protect those media outlets. Mm-hmm. And my feeling is, if I'm UNO, I just want to get the information out to as many people as possible and get as many voices talking about my athletic teams, which is my product that I'm trying to sell to the public in terms of selling tickets, selling sponsorships, etc. I want as many people covering that as possible. And I sometimes wonder if you basically give what are kind of like, you know, targeted exclusives to kind of the legacy media, the print media, the TV guys, the radio folks, you know, are you basically setting yourself up for negative coverage? And there's really nothing you can do about it because nobody else is covering your teams. You know what I'm saying?
And full disclosure, I will say I didn't read the rest of the article. And a lot of that just comes from I read that headline and that
Or that lead paragraph.
right.
The lead
Well,
paragraph.
yeah. I mean, I read the headline and the lead paragraph and thought, what do I need to read more negativity about this team? Clearly, I disagree with that negativity. Right. So what's the point? And I'm just thinking, but what about all these other people? You know, I don't know. Maybe the rest of the article was, you know, widely positive. I have no idea.
I would.
But is this a situation where, and I'd be really curious what you think about this.
Okay.
Is it possible to be optimistic and supportive, but also critical?
Yeah. I mean, you can be, I think it's kind of a juggling act in a way. I think you can be, and again, I don't necessarily know that it's being optimistic per se. I think it's being, and I'm trying to think of the word. I think it's being, and again, I don't necessarily know that the winless comment was not being objective, but, you know, I mean, technically they did go winless on the weekend. So obviously that's true. But I think that there's a way to handle this in such a way where I think it's a tough one, because a lot of times when you're talking about the beat writer of a sports team, as opposed to like a columnist, you know, a beat writer's just reporting what's going on. A beat writer is not there to have a particular slant one way or another. They're just objectively there to report on what happened. They're there to go get quotes and feedback from the team each week, and they're there to report, you know, throw in some stats, throw in some figures, and talk about the upcoming series and maybe give a little historical context. It's, you know what I'm saying? I think you can do that without really being critical at all, or particularly positive or negative.
Yeah, I think
sometimes if that seeps into an article, I don't necessarily think that that's a good thing that it does, unless you're an op-ed journalist who you're talking about the state of the Mavs and you're giving your opinion on the team. Kind of like we do on the podcast where we, you know.
Right. I remember back in my intro to journalism class in college, we had an entire week where we talked about selection bias, which is, for those who weren't journalism majors, or for me, you know, a week's worth of journalism major before I switched to something else.
Okay, that's
another topic, different podcast.
Okay, Jason, yeah, it's
like the whole idea is that there's an intrinsic bias built into selecting what to report and when to report it. And that
sure,
that should always be, as you know, their pitch to us as budding journalists was, you know, you should always consider where is your bias whenever you're picking what goes where, right? So I look at this saying, if I take this concept of selection bias from my journalism class and apply this to this to me says that you chose to lead with a title, a headline, and an intro paragraph that focuses on aspects that weren't necessarily positive. And you could take that same information and still report that same information later on in the article and not make me as a reader feel like all you're doing is dissing the team that
if you're not somebody familiar with the UNO hockey program, you would see the despite going winless last weekend, and you would assume probably that they lost those 2 games against Denver.
Yeah.
And that was not correct.
Or even if you wouldn't assume that, you'd assume that they didn't perform well, which sure. I think is also inaccurate.
Sure, you could read a number of different things into that for sure because of the way that it was worded. But my feeling is, when it seems a lot of times like the Omaha World Herald essentially has an exclusive on, as far as print media goes in this town, and I know that this isn't actually the case, but it does seem a lot of times like it's, you know, we'll give you kind of sole coverage of our athletic programs as kind of sort of a quid pro quo. If we give you that coverage, hopefully you'll give us column inches and you'll give us positive coverage, etc. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And I think that that's one of the negatives with giving a handful of media entities so much, power over the coverage that the general public sees.
I mean, it's almost like there's a monopoly.
It is. In a way, it's like their monopoly. I remember I used to do...
I know there's multiple entities that we're talking about,
right.
But it, as an observer, like, it almost seems like you're essentially creating like this media monopoly where these are the people who get it, and they kind of write all the same kinds of things, and they talk about the same kinds of stuff, and they typically grab the same quotes, and
right.
When really what if you want, take a capitalist approach to it, right? Like, if you want a better product, you need competition to encourage them to make a better product.
You look at North Dakota, and there are a number of bloggers, including a guy I'm friends with named Eric Burton, and there's another one called Seymour Sports, and those guys on their blog cover the teams. They get media credentials to cover the team. They get to go down and do post-game pressers and get quotes from the coaches and the players. And again, these are fans like you and I, who have operations that are like this podcast, Mavpuck.com, etc., but they are allowed to cover the team. And obviously, Brad Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald is a great reporter. He does a lot of terrific coverage up there. But again, he doesn't get to have coverage at the exclusion of everybody else.
And you get different perspectives that way.
Right. Because ultimately the Omaha World Herald is a business. They are a profit-making business. And I don't necessarily think it's the University of Nebraska at Omaha or the UNO athletic department's job to prop up the Omaha World Herald, much in the way that I don't think it's the Omaha World Herald's job to prop up the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I think that they're two separate entities. One's a government-run organization, and the other is a privately run, or I guess they're a publicly traded company, but they're a newspaper. So that's my thing. I mean, I think that, I think more coverage would yield better coverage.
Yeah, typically.
And so, yeah, I saw that headline. I saw a lot of fans were talking about it, and I thought it was kind of an odd angle to take. Despite going winless, the Mavs are optimistic. And I'm thinking, I watched that series, and I'm thinking the Mavs should be very optimistic. Granted, in the bonus overtime and shootout period, which aren't counted in NCAA standings, yes, they lost the extra conference points to Denver. But still, that doesn't take anything away from getting the tie in those series and how big that was for the team. So I think the team was feeling very optimistic.
And we focus on how they play and not just the outcome. And that's the other thing about that headline, is it seemed too focused on the outcome of the game and not on the performance of the kids that played the game.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's the struggle. And we've talked about, some of the best coverage this year has come from a student at the UNO student newspaper, The Gateway, in Jordan McAlpine. And he has done a fantastic job this season writing more in-depth features and doing coverage that's just beyond the preview and beyond the recap. And so, no, I'm with you on that. Definitely writers can take a slant in the things that they write. And I just think if you have more voices, you're going to get a more holistic type of coverage. And I think that's something UNO is going to have to consider looking at in the future to invite more people in and to get more coverage for their team.
Yeah. So next weekend, Western Michigan comes to town.
It's a big, big series.
We've talked about. And the other big thing that's happening, I will just point out before we start talking about what we expect from the Mavericks this weekend, is that Duluth is headed to Denver.
Okay.
So we've been fairly focused so far in this podcast about Western Michigan because they sit in fourth place. But Duluth is only 1 point ahead of them, and Duluth has to go to Denver.
Okay.
So we talked about, we could only be 1 point behind Western Michigan with the sweep, right?
Yep.
Keep in mind that it's quite possible we could be 2 points out of third place.
That would be amazing.
And we still have to play Duluth, don't we?
Yes, we do. We have a series at Duluth. Yep.
I mean, right there, you've got 6 points, a 6-point swing on the fence for you when you go up to Duluth.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. The next 2 series that we play, Western Michigan at home this coming weekend, and then the following weekend at Minnesota Duluth. So all kinds of, man, can you imagine?
Can you imagine if in 2 weeks we're sitting in third place?
If Denver sweeps Duluth, and if my biggest hockey wish this year so far comes true, and we get a sweep of Western Michigan, we could be right there knocking on the door of third place at the beginning of February. And that's exactly what you want to see for this team. Because as you know, sports in their rawest form it's about emotion. And it's about the psychology, and it's about that motivation. If you have something to play for, you're going to perform better. And look at this. They've got a lot to play for.
Like, that's why the Denver series was so much fun. Yes. Because we were so close. And you were on the edge of your seat.
We were.
You were so excited for him. Oh, please get this goal.
And for the first time.
And they let it in, and you're just like, oh,
the game that they gave away in the closing seconds of the third, I hadn't really gotten particularly emotional one way or another about a UNO game in, gosh, a long time. I can't
remember last season Denver to get it that way.
I think the last time I really my heart was pounding was the Midwest Regional back in 2015 when they were playing to go to the Frozen Four. And to watch that game, I mean, I was just like, oh man, I was just heartbroken when we lost it. But I thought, man, if these guys can just keep plugging away and keep going, they have an opportunity to do something really special. We talk a lot about how the team kind of falls apart in March, and a lot of times it's because they don't have a lot to play for in March. And it's hard to get motivated right at the end of the season when you don't have a lot to play for. But here they are at the end of January, and they can put themselves in a position to have a lot to play for the last few weeks of the season. So it's very, very exciting. And I did not know who Denver played this week. I'm glad you looked that up. So they played Duluth. So, and is that at Duluth or is that at
Denver?
It's at Magnus. So
yeah.
So that could be
one of the best home team in the country.
Absolutely.
With Denver. So
that'll be a great series, by the way.
Yeah, I'll be watching as much of those games as I can.
Well, the nice thing is those are the Mountain Time Zone games, so I usually watch some of that when we get home from the UNO game. So this is exciting. We've got Western Michigan coming in, and Western.
The other thing I want to mention before we start talking about the actual series is I went back and listened to our first podcast and said, one of the things I always feel is with a young team like this,
right?
As another team in the conference,
sure.
Like a 5th place Maverick team is probably the most scary thing I can think of in the NCHC right now.
I completely agree.
They're young, they're talented, and if they're sitting in 5th place, they know they're not far off of your talent level.
Yep.
And everyone thinks we suck, and we can go in there and just shock people.
And we've shown that we can play 5-on-5 with anybody in the country.
So even if we can't, even if the chips don't fall in the right way, and we don't end up, with 2 sweeps in a row and sitting in third place or something like that, like even if things don't happen that way, there's so much that these guys have going for them right now that I really feel like wherever we land in the conference thing, even if we're going on the road in the first series, that this is a very dangerous team to be facing in that first round.
I completely agree with that.
And I'm sure, I guarantee you that at least North Dakota and Denver are looking at and watching this thing. Maybe not so much Denver, but probably North Dakota saying, I don't know that I want to. I really hope that UNO doesn't fall into our laps. Because they already showed that they can come into our arena and give us trouble.
I think if you look at the 2 teams that are in the bottom half of the conference right now, I think UNO and then I think St. Cloud State to a certain extent. I think those 2 teams are the most dangerous teams looking far out to the conference playoffs, assuming those teams are still both in the bottom half of the conference at that point. I think those are both dangerous, but I think the way UNO has kind of evolved over the season makes them a very interesting team because there were so many unknown variables on this team. And you look at a guy like Isaiah Seville, and goaltending and defense are so huge when you get down to crunch time and when the postseason comes around. And if he can put it together on a game by game basis and continue to make some of those hellacious saves, it could be a really positive sequence of events for UNO. And again, we don't want to get the cart before the horse here.
Yeah.
We have
But
to take care of business.
If the playoffs started today, we'd be talking about the same series that we're talking about now.
That's right.
Except we'd be going
to Kalamazoo. Yep. So this is an exciting one, and this is big. This is a big series. This is as big as they get. As exciting as it was to go up and split with North Dakota, this is as big as they get this season, and this is an exciting series for them. And UNO has an opportunity, like we said, to do something very special. So I got to tell you, I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but I'm feeling like I want to pick something optimistic here. I'm just telling you right now.
Are you going to pick the sweep or?
I'll tell you what.
I'm picking
you go
a
first.
split. I'll pick
okay,
the split.
You're going to pick a split.
I think these two teams are closer than we might think. I think that if we can get a point out of one game and win the other, that would be.
So you're looking at it
huge,
saying if we could get 4 of 6 points,
4
out of
or
this
5,
series.
yeah. I mean, that would be.
Look, they've got a
shocker,
they've got a number of talented players that we've been watching the last few seasons. They've got Hugh McGing, Paul Washy, Dawson DiPietro, which I think is one of the best names in the conference now that Jared Lucas Savages is gone. I mean, they're a team that they've got, experienced goaltending.
And they're well coached.
They're well coached, and it's one of those teams that, sometimes, even though they've been solid the last few seasons, sometimes it feels like they fly under the radar and they don't get as much attention as Denver or Duluth or North Dakota or even St. Cloud the previous 2 seasons. But they're always a solid team, and they're a tough team to play in Kalamazoo. But this is a team that last season we matched up well with despite our struggles. So I'm going to go, and I know we only had one sweep at home, and it was against Alabama Huntsville. But I think the guys have put themselves into position. They know what they need to do. This is really, really important to get this series taken care of before you have to travel to Duluth, which it's going to be tough going up there to northern Minnesota and playing. So I'm going to say that we sweep. I'm going to say it's going to be, in many respects, kind of like Colorado College. It's going to be a series where it's kind of a shootout both games. I think it's going to be a very entertaining series. I think UNO is going to get it done. I think we're going to be celebrating both nights in the lobby, which we haven't gotten to do for a while. I think people are going to be throwing brooms on the ice. That's what I think is going to be happening. And I think it's going to be a big weekend for Isaiah Seville. I think he's going to come up big in this important series. And I think at the end of the weekend, when the dust settles, we're going to be 1 point out of 4th place. And who knows what's going to happen in that Denver-Duluth series. But we're going to be 1 point out of 4th place. Going into Duluth the following weekend, it should be exciting. And I know that that's an incredibly optimistic pick, but I'm on a roll now with sweep. So it's the direction I got to go.
I mean, that would be huge because the 2 teams behind us, Miami and St. Cloud, play each other.
Yep.
At Miami, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think.
And I'll tell you what, we've got to take away these points from Western Michigan now, because if you look the rest of the way, I think Western Michigan still plays Miami twice, once in Kalamazoo and once in Miami. And that's a series that they can probably rack up some points in. I know Miami has played stronger this season, but still, we have some tough series coming up. We still have to play North Dakota again. So again, it's something that it's wishful thinking on my part, but I think the guys can get 6 points out of this series. And I think it'd be great if they made a statement, regardless of what happens the rest of the way. Let's make a statement after coming off a great win out at Colorado College, and let's take care of Western Michigan, and let's get people buzzing and talking and get them excited about the possibilities down the stretch.
So 7:30 Friday night, 7 o'clock Saturday night.
Is it 7:30 Friday night? Let's
7:38. Yeah.
Really? Why? Why is our game home start? Yeah, it is 7:37 game. Oh, it's because it's on CBS Sports Network.
Oh, okay.
So we're getting TV coverage
Woohoo!
to the people who actually have. Don't let my dad hear that because he actually has the optional sports package on Cox, so he can watch that. And he already leaves the games, like after 2 periods anyway. So if I tell him it's on TV, he'll leave like 15 minutes into the game. I'm like, dude, why did you drive and come out here? So he's got to stay the whole time. So that's what he's got to do. So a little bit later start on Friday night. So that'll give you guys all a chance to park and get some nachos and get in your seats and get ready to go. Watch the Mavs in a big series against Western Michigan at Baxter Arena this weekend. It should be great.
Should be a lively environment.
Are you traveling this weekend?
We are.
Okay, where are you going this weekend?
Tournaments in Waseca. We'll be staying in Owatonna.
Okay,
so just south of the Twin Cities.
Which daughter is this, Lexi or
Lexi,
Maddie?
oldest one.
Okay, so exciting tournament for Lexi.
Yep.
It's fun to watch her play. You'll be there. We'll be at Baxter Arena. I'll be interested to see who you're giving your seats to this weekend. Hopefully there's not a snowstorm up there, or you guys may be borrowing seats from us again. I don't know what'll happen on that, but regardless,
okay right
you
now,
guys have a good trip and you guys have a good
Yeah,
time. I'll be at Baxter Arena with all the rest of y'all.
Cheer loud.
Be sure to follow Mavpuck on Twitter. Bridget does the game updates. She has a lot of fun with that. Be sure to follow us on Facebook. Be sure to follow us on the Mavpuck website where you can find all the back episodes of this podcast. And until next time, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.